When I first heard about Olympus's famous tree houses and the fact that you could stay in them, the Swiss Family Robinson urge in me came to the fore. This was it. I was going to stay in a tree house. Well, it was a bit of an anticlimax when I found out that a tree house in Turkish is in fact a log cabin. Accommodation in Olympus is expensive, $110 a night for a cabin. The Seamerg Evleri Hotel, if you could call it a hotel, was booked through booking.com and was run by hippies, and we did find the experience of living in a hippie camp an interesting one. Everything seemed very communal. That evening we decided to go to Girali, also called Yanatas or Burning Rock, also called Chimaera. It's about 3/4 of an hour's drive from Olympus. It was here that Lillian wanted to see an old flame. In fact, the old flame was at least 2,500 years old according to geologists. The steep 2-kilometre climb up the mountain in 35 degrees was exhausting, but well worth the effort. It's not difficult to see why ancient peoples attributed these extraordinary flames to the breath of a monster, part lion, part goat and part dragon.
Having just walked up a hill, 20 minutes straight up,
40 degrees,
36 maybe,
1 kilometre, 2 kilometre,
2 kilometre walk uphill, non-stop.
1 in 10 grade.
Thanks Helen and Mitch for the training.
Yeah.
And now we found someone's kindly lit us a nice fire to keep us warm. In fact, apparently they've lit about 20 or 30 fires up here.
Is that right? And these have been going how long? A million years, is it?
Couple of thousand years.
Couple of thousand years. Just great, eh?
In mythology, Chimaera was the son of Typhon, the son of Gaia, the earth goddess. For the nerds amongst us, a gas analysis is provided at the foot of the hill. These vents, covering an area of 5,000 square metres, represent the biggest emission of abiogenic methane gas in the world.
So, what's happening? Anything?
Recovering. Watching the flames.
Flames? There's a dog in the background. Hey, there's a dinosaur behind you.
There's one behind the camera too.
No, that's not. I'm not a dinosaur. I'm a fossil.
I'm just going to say, there's nothing better than walking 2K straight uphill, standing in front of a fire when it's 36 degrees, and come back to the hotel and they're serving soup.
Hot soup.
Hot soup.
Yeah, the translation he said was spoon soup. He wasn't too sure how to translate
what
this.
you need.
Yeah.
No Coke with ice in it or iced water.
That's right.
Hot soup.
I think the temperature. Yeah, I think the temperature dropped to about 30 though, isn't it?
It probably has.
Probably
actually.
about 30. Only 30 now.
Yeah. No breeze.
No.
It's hard to tell, but maybe 30. It's tasty.
Nice.
The next morning we headed to Olympus Beach, just a few kilometres away. It's here that we find the ancient ruins of the old city. In our initial planning, we actually marked a visit to Olympus as a no, but as we were staying there, it made sense to call in for a quick look anyway. Strabon, a 1st century historian, wrote that there were 6 cities that could vote in the Lycian League. They were Xanthos, Telos, Panara, Patara, Myra and Olympus. So Olympus was an influential city, which thrived in 200 BC and was also mentioned by Cicero. The bad news was that by 300 AD, pirate attacks impoverished the city, and by 1500 AD, the city was abandoned.
All I wanted was a sweet distraction for an hour or two. Had no intention to do the things we've done. Funny how it always goes with love. When you don't look, you find. But
I just did. In fact, we come from there.
we move as one.
The stroll down the deep shaded valley of Olympus was a pleasant but hot one, rewarded by a cool off at the beach at the end of the valley.
Before, doing so much more than falling in love on an all-time high. We'll take all the world and win. So
Phaselis is on the border between Lycia and Pamphylia, and it was originally founded by Greek colonists 2,700 years ago in 700 BC. It was originally called Phaselos, as you would expect, being founded by Greeks. Its wealth came from being a port for the shipment of timber, rose oil and perfume. Its peninsular location meant that it had 3 natural harbours, which is why it was chosen as a settlement. Phaselis existed in turbulent times and was subject to many different rulers: Persians, Karains, then King Pericles. The Phaselans were more interested in trade than politics, so they tended to prosper no matter who was in power. For example, when Alexander the Great rolled up in 333 BC, the Phaselans decided not to resist his army and presented him with a golden crown. As a result, Alexander stayed for a few days.
Quite a cute wee theatre.
Right.
In 200 BC, they joined the Lycian Federation, and then in 43 BC, they were taken over by the Romans. As the harbours of Antalya and Alanya gained prominence, Phaselis lost its importance and by 1300 AD was completely abandoned. Today it's just another holiday resort.
funny how it always goes with love. When you don't look, you find. But then we're two of a kind. We move as one. We're an all-time high. We'll change all that's gone before.
Antalya is Turkey's biggest city on the Mediterranean, with a population of 800,000. Founded by Attalus II 2,100 years ago in 100 BC, the city was named Antalya after its founder. Emperor Hadrian visited here in 130 AD, and a triumphal arch, now known as Hadrian's Gate, was built in his honour. We drove by the old city walls and would like to have stopped and have a look around, plus visit the museum. But parking was such a hassle and the streets were narrow and the traffic was horrendous, so we decided to move on and head out to Termessos. Termessos is 34 kilometres from Antalya and is one of the most remarkable sights of our 2011 adventure. It's hidden high and deep in a rugged mountain valley. Access from the D350, we drive up a long winding road to the car park. From there it's a grueling 1 hour climb, and I mean climb, scrambling over rocks to get up to the main city. This made our exhausting climb at Chimaera look like a stroll in the park. together for long periods under such horrendous conditions leads to massive arguments with verbal barbs thrown at each other continuously.
One good thing about walking in this heat uphill in 40 or 45 is you haven't got the energy for smart aleck remarks.
Right.
Certainly it's one of the best preserved archaeological sites in Turkey. Termessos is also magnificently situated against a backdrop of forested mountains and bits and pieces of the ruined city, the highlight being the difficult to reach theatre, which seats 7,000.
We're an all-time high. We'll change all that's gone before, doing so much more.
There's nowhere to buy refreshments and it's over 40 degrees. This is the first time ever in the Middle East that I've had to take my shirt off in a climb. It's believed that the Termessins, a Pisidian people, were fierce and prone to battling. It's known that they successfully fought off Alexander the Great in 333 BCE, and that the Romans, perhaps wisely, accepted the Termessins' wishes to remain an independent ally in 70 CE. The end of Termessos came when its aqueduct was crushed in an earthquake, destroying the water supply to the city, and then by 500 AD it was abandoned.
What's happening?
The grunting was all we could manage after a 2-hour strenuous workout, and so it was back to the car to look for a hotel. Using our GPS to guide us to a cluster of hotels, we came across several hotels, one of which was the Karain. When I rolled up to reception, the owner couldn't work out why we were there. She thought we were lost and wanted directions. We found out later from the owner that no tourists ever come into this local area. Fortunately, she had her computer turned on, and using Google Translator, we were finally able to communicate that we wanted a room. The clothes were full of sweat from the Termessos experience, so guess which room was ours?
We stumbled across this amazing hotel. $50, includes the breakfast
And dinner.
and dinner. Great service. And this must be the owner.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we get special treatment here, you know why? We're the only guests.
There's a freezer down the back.
Oh yeah.
After all that, we certainly had a very memorable and enjoyable stay here. The next morning, it was off to the Karain cave. This is an astounding sight and one of the more unusual locales in this region. It was a strenuous 30-minute hike up to the cave, but well worth the effort, and we were able to talk to the archaeological team who happened to be there finishing up digs for the summer. First excavated in 1946 and continuing to this day, it's been occupied for 25,000 years, and now, for the moment, was occupied by 2 New Zealanders and a couple of German tourists. Much of what was excavated here has been transferred to the Antalya and Ankara museums. We were to visit the Ankara museum later. Found here were axes, arrows and bone fragments of Neanderthal man. This is one of the most important archaeological finds in the world and gives clues as to how prehistoric man lived 25,000 years ago. This is a genuine man cave.
Are you feeling Neolithic?